Want to completely design the interior of a room using SketchUp? In this course, we will go through a step-by-step process where you can create a professional 3D model of an interior of a room. In this course, we will go over how to create 3D models, how to apply materials and edit them, how to import furniture and decor, how to create a video sequence, and how to export a high-resolution image. And as a bonus, we will export our model into Lumion 10, where we will create a stunning photorealistic rendering. Now, to follow along in this course, you can simply recreate the model that we go over in the video, or you can measure a room in your house and recreate that model and make it your own project. 3D modeling is quickly becoming essential in the architecture and interior design fields. Carefully follow each step, and soon you will be creating stunning 3D models. Let's go ahead and open up SketchUp 2020. So once we open up SketchUp, we can see that we have a very similar looking screen to previous versions of SketchUp. And for this course, I'm going to be using the architectural inches template. If you're in a different part of the world, you may be using meters. But here in the US, we use the imperial system, which is in feet and inches. So I'm going to go ahead and click that and open up that template to start our interior design. Now, before we create this awesome design of this master bedroom, we are going to need some tools. So to do that, I'm going to go over here to the window icon and select default tray and go ahead and click on show tray. And here it gives us a list of default trays that are most commonly used in SketchUp. Now, another tool that I want to make accessible here is our large toolbar. So let's go to View, click Toolbars, and let's go to Large Tool Set, and go ahead and close that. And let's go ahead and click and hold your mouse and drag it, and we can dock that wherever we want. And I'm going to go ahead and dock it to the left portion of our screen. Now let's start laying out our room. Before I do that, let's go ahead and remove this person here. And I'm just going to click once to highlight that person and just hit delete, and they're gone. So now I want to get into the command that allows us to draw some lines, which will ultimately be our walls, and that's over here in this line tool. So let's go ahead and click that once, and now we can drag our mouse over here to, here is our origin point here, where this is where our X, Y, and Z axis are, and we can start our model here, but in reality you can really start it anywhere you want on your model. But let's go ahead and start it here, and I'm going to left click once and drag my mouse, and let's move it along this red axis line. And another thing about moving around in your model, to move around or pan, you can use your center scroll button by pressing it down, and you can pan. I'm sorry, that's orbiting. You can orbit, and if you hold down Shift and press your middle mouse button, you can pan in your model. Okay, so let's move our mouse in this direction of our red axis, and I'm going to type 16 feet. And you can see the increments I am punching in down here. And let me do that again. And notice down here the numbers will change. And I'm going to type 16 feet and enter. And there it's drawn a line 16 feet along the red axis. Now let's move along our green axis. And let's type 12 feet, enter. And let's go ahead and drag our mouse over here, and here we can see that it's automatically snapping to that point, and I'm just going to go ahead and click again, and there we've created a rectangle surface. Now there are several different ways you can model in SketchUp. Basically there's a lot of ways to do the same thing. So what I'm going to show you now is a different way to create a rectangle surface. So I'm going to go to this rectangle tool and click once, and I'm going to click along this green axis and then just drag my mouse. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in some numerical increments that will create our rectangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm dragging my mouse and then I'm going to type 16 feet, comma, 12 feet, enter, and there we've created a 16 by 12 foot rectangle exactly the same as this one here. Okay, so back to our rectangle here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to offset a line to create our exterior walls here of our room. So what I'm going to do is go over here to the offset command and let's click to activate that, and let's drag our mouse over the surface here, and you can see it's highlighting that this surface is selected or that edge as well. So I'm going to click once and then drag my mouse in the direction that I want the offset. So I want the offset to go out this way, and I'm going to go ahead and type 4.5 inches for a 4.5 inch exterior wall. And there we've created that offset that will be our wall. Now to set up the height of our walls, what I'm going to use is the push-pull tool. So over here I'm going to highlight and activate the push-pull tool, and I'm going to drag my mouse over the surface of that wall offset we created, and I'm going to click once and drag my mouse in the direction I want to push-pull, and I'm going to make these walls, let's go with a 10-foot ceiling, and I typed in 10 feet, enter, and there we've created our 10-foot walls. Now the next thing we want to do is add some door and window openings. So to do that, I'm going to use the line tool again, and let's zoom in to our corner here, and let's come off this wall 3 feet 6 inches, and now we can drag our mouse to see where it created that, but right now we can't really see that. So I'm going to change that so that we can notice when we've created another division. So what I'm going to do is go to my styles, and we're going to modify the style of our current drawings so that we can see endpoints. So here in the edit style tab here, I'm going to click endpoints, and I don't need it to be 7. Let's change it to about 4, and let's click, we'll just minimize that, and let's go back to our model, and there we can see a little node there where we created that. So just something that you can just better maneuver around your model. And I'm going to go ahead and click line, and let's go ahead and click here, and let's drag our mouse in the vertical direction, which is that blue axis, and let's type 7 feet, enter. Let's come over here 3 feet, and let's come down 3 feet, and there we've created our door outline there. And I'm going to use the push-pull tool now, and let's go ahead and escape to get out of that selection, and I want to push-pull this all the way to the other end of the wall, and you can see when it highlights that it's touching another surface or the face there, and I can left click once and it automatically cleans up that and gives us a nice clear opening. So now let's do the same for this wall. Let's add a door in this corner here. This will be a door to a closet, and then we'll add some windows here. So let's go ahead and click our line tool again, and we will click on this corner, and let's come off 12 inches, enter, and let's come up 7 feet. And for this door, I don't want it to be the same size. I don't need it to be 36 inches, so I'm going to type 30, enter, and let's bring this down, and let's use the push-pull tool, and let's, yep, there it did. It worked. Okay. So now let's go ahead and add some windows to this wall, and I'm going to do the same thing. Use our line tool to come off the wall, and we'll come off a foot again, and we're going to go ahead with the same header height of 7 feet, and we're going to come over here 30 inches, enter, and let's come down. This time I'm only going to come down 60 inches, and let's go ahead and connect those, and now let's use the push-pull tool and push that to where it creates that opening. let's use the eraser tool and erase this. Now for the eraser tool, for those of you that don't know, let me hit Control Z. There are several ways we can erase objects. We can click once and it'll just erase that. Let me Control Z, undo. And we can hold the left click down and just move your mouse around and it'll begin to select objects or lines, whatever it is it intersects. And once you deselect, it erases all those objects. So very useful tool if you know how to use it correctly. One thing I like about it is you can erase objects on a single surface without erasing things beyond it, which if you do the line tool or the select tool and you select everything, it's going to erase everything that's on that surface and beyond. So just something that you might want to play around with. The eraser tool is a lot more useful than you may think. Okay, so let's add one more window to this other side. Use the line tool. We're going to come over here 12 inches and let's come up 7 feet. Now another quick trick I'm going to show you is I'm going to create that surface again and use this select tool, and now let's use the move tool, and I'm going to select that endpoint and drag this, but I don't want to move it, I want to create a copy, so I'm going to hit alternate. I'm going to hit Control. The Control key will allow us to make a copy of that surface. I'm going to drag it over here, and there we've created that surface opening or outline. And let's use the push pull. And now let's erase our object here. Let's select this object here and hit delete. And there we have our window openings and our door openings for our room. Now to add some trim details to our model, there's a couple different ways we can go about that. First, I'm going to show you a very simple, easy, and fast way to do it. And let's start off by clicking our rectangle tool. I'm going to click on this corner to the other corner, and I'm going to do some offsets. So get in your offset command here, and let's start off with our door openings. And we're going to come off this edge. Let's go 3.5 inches, and we'll do the same for this door. 3.5, and let's go ahead and do the same to our windows here. And if we want to recreate that surface, I'm just going to redraw a line so that it creates another surface, and we're going to go ahead and offset 3.5, offset 3.5, and there we have some outlines for our trim. Let's go ahead and delete those surfaces to open those door and windows. And now all we have to do is just offset this. Let's go 0.75 inches. And for our floor system, what I'm going to do is click here, and we're going to go 1 inch. And let's go ahead and bring this up 7.25 inch. And now we just need to do a little cleaning up by using our push pull tool. So a little bit of work doing your push pull. So I'm going to show you a different way of doing this, but again, there's just several different ways of getting the same thing done. So you just want to go through your model and see which way is going to work better for you. And let's go ahead and recreate that. Okay, let's delete these lines. All right. And once you've done this, we can work on the next step. Basically, you just want to clean your excess lines that you created. And let's go ahead and make these, let's even these out. Okay, looks good. Let's get rid of this one. Okay, so there we have it. We added some trim to our windows and doors and didn't take too long at all. But there's another way we can do this where we can do a much more elaborate style of trim. So let's work on that next. Alright, so in this method of creating trim in our model, what we're going to do is first create a profile for our trim. So let's go ahead and we'll start over here just in any corner, or really we can start this anywhere in our model, but I'm just going to start it here just to make it a little easier. And let's type 5.5 inches, enter, and let's come out 3/4 of an inch and create just a simple rectangle. And what I'm going to do is just create a little notch in that trim, and let's go ahead and also create just a little notch in the edge here, and we'll go ahead and delete these two, and that's it. That's all we're going to do for our trim. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to double click to highlight everything we just created here, and I'm going to right click and make this into a group. Now let's activate that group by double clicking twice, and now I want to draw a line, which is I'm going to use the follow me command for this trim to follow. So let's go ahead and click on the endpoint, and we're going to basically trace a path for this trim to follow in our room. So I'm going to wrap around the doors, just come around the base of our walls, come over here, come to the outline of this door here, and connect it there. And it may have created a surface here. I can't tell at the moment. Oops, and one thing, if you ever zoom too far, you can always click previous zoom or zoom extents to zoom in your entire model. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to double click or triple click to select this connected group of lines that created my trim profile, and it also selected all the lines that I just created. But one thing I want to do is I want to hold down shift and deselect that profile. So the only thing selected now is the line of the path I want my trim to follow. Now let me show that in a more easier way. I'm going to go ahead and click here. Let's triple click our whole room and make this into a group. I'm gonna click it, and let's click hide. And there we can see the path we want our trim to travel. And let's go ahead and triple click, and let's deselect that profile. And now I want to use that follow me tool, which there's a couple of ways I can do that. I can just click here. Actually, where is it? Right here, follow me. Or I can go to tools, follow me. So either way, it'll create the same results. So what I want to do is just click once and select the object. And since I have that whole path already selected, it went ahead and created that whole trim around my base and doors and windows. Another way we can do that, let's hit Control Z. Let's hit the follow me tool, and we can see it's asking us down here, select face to extrude. So this is the face or the profile I want to extrude. I'm going to select it once and drag my mouse in a direction that I want to go, and for some reason it's not letting me go this way, so we're going to go ahead and go this way. And let's just follow along the line of our base and doors, basically the path that we just created for it. And once we get back to where we started, it will automatically close that. Okay, there we go. And let me go ahead and hit unhide our last object that we hid, which is our walls. And there we have our base trim. So a little bit more detailed than just that simple offset we created the first time. Now for our windows, we can use that same profile. I'm going to go ahead and paste that profile that I copied to my clipboard, and let's go ahead and I need to click somewhere here, and let's make sure it's a group, and let's go ahead and rotate that 180 degrees. So to rotate, I can click anywhere as a base point and then click again, and then let's type 180, and now we have it on our the side that we want it. And then let's go over to the center point here. It doesn't really have to be the center, we can select anywhere. And now I'm going to double click to activate that group, and I'm going to use the rectangle tool to create the path of travel for my follow me. And let's delete that surface, and let's triple click everything, and then we have to deselect the profile edges of and the surface of that the profile right there, and let's go to the follow me tool, and let's select that surface, and there we've created our window trim. And let's go ahead and drag this over here, and of course you can create different trims for your windows and doors. I'm just showing you basically how it works, but you can obviously create a more elaborate trim and profiles as you want. So okay, so there we have it. We have our base trim and our window trim. "3D Warehouse" has a massive collection of 3D models for SketchUp. It really is the best place to find models that you can quickly put into your 3D models. So what we're going to do is let's search for a barn door, and let's find a style that we like for this model. And I like this one, so I'm going to go ahead and download this, and I'm just going to click SketchUp 2020. If you have an older version, you can click one of these, and let's just click download, and we can see it downloading here. We'll click on it, and what I'll do is I will copy and paste this into my current model. So first, let's make sure that it's all one group, and right here we see it's two groups, so I'm going to select it all, tell it to make it into one group, and let's hit edit, copy. And now let's go to our model and paste it in. And let's go ahead and hit edit, paste, and let's just click anywhere in our model. Now let's rotate this where we want it, and we can rotate it 90 degrees. Let's go ahead and use the move command to place this where we want it, and let's go ahead and attach it to where it hits the surface of this wall, and let's go ahead and move it directly over this door, and I think that's good. The only thing I want to do is let's maybe mirror this so that the handle is on this side. So to do that, I have the door highlighted. I'm going to right click and hit flip along red axis, and there we go. Now we flipped it, so if we wanted to move this door, we can move it in that direction. And it looks like I need to move that top piece a little bit more, our little track. Let's move this over so it just makes sense if we're moving it. Okay, that looks good to me. Now let's find another door to insert here for our closet. So here I found a file that has several interior door styles. I think I like this door right here, so I'm going to go ahead and download this model and extract that one from it. And here I have the file here, and here I already have it highlighted. Let's go ahead and hit copy, and let's go ahead and paste this into our model by hitting edit, paste, and let's go ahead and place it where we want it. And it doesn't quite fit because it's a different size, so I'm going to show you a quick way we can fix that, and that is using the scale command. I'm going to click here once, and let's go ahead and select this center point of our model, and let me go ahead and drag that out so you can kind of see what's going on. So use the scale command, and I want to grab the center because it will scale it down in proportion, as opposed if I grabbed it here, it kind of distorts it quite a bit. I don't want it to distort that much. So let's go ahead and line this up. And let's see if I can zoom in there and select that corner correctly. There we go. And one thing that changed with Lumion 2020 is you can see when we select an object, we have these new grip points now, which is pretty cool. So you can actually select and place it to the extent of that object. So it kind of gives you some options for each the four corners of that. So it makes it a little bit easier to maneuver some objects. So a very cool feature that they added for SketchUp 2020. Now one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete this little piece of the door so that I'll have a more of a flush connection here. And let me escape, and let's go ahead and move. Let's grab this corner, make sure we grab the corner, and we want to connect it to this corner here. Just drag it down, and now we're not connecting here, so let's go ahead and use the scale command. Make sure we grab that center point and make it line up with this edge here, and there we have a nice snug fit. But it's obviously it's going to swing this way, which I don't want, so let's go ahead and flip it. So I'm going to select the object, right click, use flip along red, actually it might be green this time, yep, in green axis, and let's go ahead and push it in about 1 inch, and there we go. Now we have our interior closet door. The height seems right, we don't have to do any scaling there, and this door seems correct as well. So we have our doors in. Now let's move on to adding some windows. Now to add our window, we can go back into 3D Warehouse and find a window to import, or we can create our own window. And because I want to teach you how to model, I'm going to show you how to create this window from scratch. So let's go ahead and first use the rectangle tool, and we will go ahead and connect these 2 points to create a surface. Now let's use the select tool, and let's double click, and let's right click and make this into a group. So now let's go ahead and click in this group to activate it. Let's use the offset command, and let's offset this 1.5 inches, and let's go ahead and use the push pull tool. Let's push this in 2 inches, and let's come around the back side of it, and let's pull this out 4 inches, and there we have a window. Now we don't have glass, so I'm going to show you how to add some glass to that. And let's go to our paint bucket tool, let's go to materials, and let's click here, and we're going to go to glass and mirrors, and I'm just going to click this one right here, translucent glass gray, and let's apply that to our window pane, and let's go ahead and hit escape. And let me go ahead and push this in 1 inch. Oops. Let's click and drag. We're going to move it 1 inch into the wall. And there we go. We have a clear window. That could be a fixed window or possibly a casement window. But what I want to do is add a little bit more detail to that. So let's right click, and I'm going to click Make Component. Let's go ahead, and we will go ahead and call this our casement window. And now let's drag and copy it over here. So I'm going to use the move command. We're going to grab a control point, hit control to make a copy, drag it over here, and there we have our window. Now one thing I want to do is let's add some divisions into this window. So let's go ahead and double click, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a line down the center, and let's create some more divisions right through the middle there, and it should have created that. There it goes, another point and another point here. Now let's use the offset command, and we're going to select that surface there, and we're going to go 0.5 inches, enter. Now another trick I'm going to show you here is when you move over to a next surface and we're still in that offset command, if we double click, it automatically offsets it to the previous dimension that you entered. So I can just double click on each one of these and it will offset without me having to punch in 1/2 inch every time. So now let's use the erase command and let's erase some of these excess lines. And now I'm going to go ahead and delete this surface because we already have a glass behind it. And I'm going to double click. Let's make this into a group. So we have a group within a group, and let's extend this back to where it goes through our glass. Let's see if we can get that. Let's just go 3 inches. And there we can see where it's going through the glass. We don't need it to go that much. So let's go ahead and just push it just a little bit beyond that glass pane. And let's push this over here. So it's just barely cutting through that glass. And let's hit escape. And because we were working in a component, whatever we did to this window, it did to this one. So a very useful feature is to make components when you have more than one of the same types of objects. Okay, so there we go. We have our windows and doors in our model. Now 3D Warehouse is not the only place you can find textures. You really can find them all over the internet. One website is Sketchup Texture Club. Sketchup Texture Club is a website that has hundreds of textures that you can download for free. The only thing you have to do is create a user, and there is an option to purchase some higher resolution textures, but even the ones that are for free really are good quality and they have a good variety of textures. So that is another option of a website you can go to find the textures that you need. And one more option that you can do is also go directly to a Google search, and I usually like to look for a seamless texture for whatever it is I'm looking for, whether it's a stucco texture, a stone texture. I like to type in seamless and see what comes up, and you can simply just click on it and you can just right click and download these to your library to use in your SketchUp model. So that is another way you can find just hundreds or not thousands of textures to use in your model. So I usually just, again, I try to add the word texture to whatever material I'm looking for, and sometimes seamless to see if I can find something that will not look like a repetitive pattern. So a few tips on finding materials for your SketchUp models. Now once you have downloaded a texture that you want to apply to your model, to bring in that texture you need to create a custom texture. So what I'm going to do is just start off with a color, just a random color, doesn't really matter, and let's do one that we really notice in our model. So wow, there we go, pink walls. So I'm going to hit edit, and let's go to our folder here, browse for material image file, and I'm going to go to my personal library of materials that I have downloaded, and let's go to wall coverings, and here I have a stucco material image that I've downloaded, and let's go ahead and click open, and there it automatically applied that to my walls. So very quick and easy way to create a custom texture. Now I can also modify that. I can change the scale if I wanted to. I can change the color, and one thing I like to do is hit reset color, and we can kind of and I guess it's kind of using that original color that I first brought it in with, but here we can modify it exactly how we want and exactly the color tone that we want for our model. So not bad. And the next thing I want to do is I want to add a white material to my trim. So I'm going to go ahead and just click a white here, and let's go ahead and make this a custom material, and we're going to call it white trim. Click OK, and I'll just apply it to my trim, and let's go ahead and apply it to our windows as well. And let's go ahead and see what material we have on this door, and to do that I just click the eyedrop tool and click here, and here we can see it's set to default layer. Now one thing that I want to recommend that you do in your model so that you don't have layers that are on default, you want to make sure for rendering purposes that everything has an applied material to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my default layer, my white trim that I created, and let's edit it and let's make it really stand out. So there we can see easily what has that white trim material applied to it and what doesn't. So let's try and click our door, and now we have it applying that white trim material. And let's go ahead and lighten it up again. And there we go. Now let's also change the material on this wall over here. And to do that, I'm going to use my eyedrop tool, and I'm going to select this wood texture. And then let's go ahead and activate that group and select that surface. And let's hit material and click there. And now we've applied that wood texture to this wall as well. Okay, so looking good. Now before we add our ceiling to this model, I want to add some furniture. To do that, let's go to 3D Warehouse. In 3D Warehouse, we want to do searches for things like a queen bed. Now a tip for searching for some really high quality objects in 3D Warehouse is to adjust your file size. Here we can increase the file size to a minimum of 3 or 4 megabytes. This will allow you to eliminate the models that just are a bit too simple. And the problem with inserting something that's too simple is it just makes your model look unrealistic. Now the problem with inserting something too big is it can really weigh down your file. So be careful with selecting objects that are too complex or too large and objects that are too small. You want to find something about in between that will look good in your model. So let's try this one and let's see how this one works. And I'm going to insert it directly into our model. And there you can see how long it's kind of taking. There's the polygon size, and it's a 23 megabyte file, but it has quite a bit of good, nice detail in it. And once it's placed in our model, we can go ahead and move it to the desired location that we want. And we're going to go ahead and move over here. Let's use the rotate tool to rotate it. And let's go ahead and move it against this wall. And there it says it hits the face of the group. And to center this wall, here's another trick that I'll show you. Is here we have selected the center, and I can use the arrow keys to lock the axis, the movement along a certain axis. So here I'm aligning it up with that midpoint, and there I placed it exactly in the center of that wall. So keep going to 3D Warehouse and finding some more models to place into our room here. And when you're done, let's jump back into course and move on to creating our ceiling. Now this is a fast forward of me selecting objects to import into this model. And of course you can select your own models based on your style, your preferences. And also if you're recreating your own room, select fixtures and furniture pieces that you want to see in that room. And when you're done, jump into the next lesson. Okay, so now that we have our room furnished, as you can see I have done here, and just to give you a little idea, I've added some nightstands, some pictures, some blinds on the windows. Here's a little mirror, and just some more pictures, some shelving, a desk with a chair and a laptop. So basically, you can decorate the room how you want, but these are things that just really make the room come to life. But now let's work on the ceiling. So for the ceiling, what I want to do is I want to create a vaulted ceiling. So first, let's open up our group for the walls, and I'm going to create a pitch the roof at 12, and let's go up 6 inches, and let's make sure we are on that blue axis. So we're going 6 inches, and let's go ahead and extend that out, and we're going to do the same on this end. We're going to go 12 and 6, and let's go ahead and connect those, and we'll connect this here, and let's go ahead and do a little cleaning up with the eraser tool, and let's go ahead and delete this line. And I'm going to go ahead and copy by using the move tool. I'm going to grab this endpoint, going to hit Control, and let's go ahead and move this all the way over here. And now we can actually delete that line. Oops, let's delete this, and let's delete this line as well. And there we kind of have our pitch coming together. But one thing I also want to do is I want to add some beams to this room. So I'm going to draw a line here, and let's come down 6 inches and 6 inches here. Let's connect, and let's connect this here, and let's do the same thing over here. We're going to come down 6 inches, and let's connect that, and I think we are good. Now let's double click, and let's right click and make this into a group. So now I'm going to double click to open that group, and let's extend this out 6 inches, and we're going to extend this one out 6 inches, and let's right click, let's make this into a component, and we'll call this our vaulted beam. And now I'm going to use the move tool and grab this across to the other side of the room, and now I'm going to use the / command, and you can see what I'm doing down here, and I'm going to say 3. So I want to divide it by 3. Oops, let's try that one more time. So what I want to do is I want to make some equal spacing. So let's go, we're going to grab this, make sure I grab it in the right spot, and we're coming all the way to the end, and I'm telling you to divide that by 3, and there we go. Now we have some beams evenly spaced in our room, and we're missing a surface there, so I'm just going to draw a line, and there we've done that. Now let's apply a wood texture to our beams. So to do that, I'm going to first open up our group, and let's start with a regular color, and let's go ahead and create a new material. And actually I'm going to, let's pick something that's already kind of in the brown category. Let's go ahead and hit create material, and let's go ahead and just make that somewhat of a brown, and let's go to materials, wood, and this is just a library that I've created on my own. So these are just things I've downloaded from time. Some are from the internet, some are from SketchUp Texture Club. So let's try this dark fine wood texture, seamless, and let's hit open, and let's go ahead and apply it to our beam. And the only thing I need to change is the direction of the wood grain. So let's go to position, and let's just rotate that so that it goes along our beam line. And I could hold down Control to make it rotate a little bit more freely. And let's go ahead and position that about there. And let's go ahead and apply it to the other side. And again, I have to rotate this beam, the beam texture. So if you feel like it's snapping, then just hit that Control, and it kind of gives you more of a fluid motion. And let's go ahead and just apply it to the rest of the visible areas of our beam. And let's go ahead and hit the paint bucket tool and apply it there. And let's go ahead and make sure we get it right on this back side as well. And that looks correct. Let's try it on this one. That looks correct as well. Okay, so looking good. And we missed a little point here. Even though it's not visible, we'll go ahead and apply some wood material to it as well. So one more thing, let's put a beam in the center. So to do that, let's just start with since we are doing a 6-inch beam, let's go 6, and let's go 12 inches down, and let's go 6, and we'll close it. Let's go ahead and make this into a group, and we'll go ahead and let's go ahead and extrude or use the push-pull all the way to the end. We'll come to the end there, and let's go ahead and center this right there. And now let's apply a wood material to it. And we'll start with this material, the same one that we applied here. We just need to rotate it correctly. Go to texture position, and we're going to rotate. And let's make sure we get the wood grain in the right direction. And let's go ahead and apply it on the other surfaces. And there we go. Now we could drop this down a little bit lower if we wanted to. Don't want to go too low with it. And that might even be too low. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and push this back up. Let's try 2 inches. Let's go 2 more. Doesn't need to be that large. Okay. All right. So now I actually need my ceiling. So what I'm going to do is going to click on my wall, and let's go ahead and pick a point in our rectangle tool, and we're going to go all the way to the edge there. Let's try it again. And if it's not doing it quite right, we can just select any point there and just kind of piece it together. And there it's all came together. Very nice. Okay, so the reason why I did that for the as one of the last things is because it makes viewing our model a little bit more difficult, but I will show you how to set up some views in a minute. But before we do that, let's add some can lights to our ceiling. Now to create our can lights, what I'm going to do is first find a center point, and I'm just going to draw a line from point to point here, and let's use the circle tool. Select that center, and as you can see, it is a parallel with that surface. So let's go ahead and let's go 2 inches, and let's go ahead and erase that. And I'm going to go ahead and double click here. And let's go ahead and open that. We made it into a group, and I'm going to go ahead and offset it. We'll just go 1/2 inch. And now let's go ahead and view this from the other side. And I'm just going to make it, use the push-pull tool just to come out just barely 1/4 inch. And here we'll just go 0.1 inch just to get it off the surface. And let's go ahead and apply a material to it. And we'll start with a color here. We'll just go with this yellow, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a name. We'll call it Can Light, and I'll just abbreviate like that. And we'll apply it to the center, and we'll go ahead and give it a dark trim around it. So we'll just go ahead and apply that all around. And there we go. And I'm going to go ahead and make this into a component, and we'll call it our can light. And now let's go ahead and apply this to the center of these other areas. And one thing I could do is I can go to the corner here. Let's see if it'll let me grab it. Actually, let's just draw a line to find the center of each of these. And I'll just drag. So okay, let's click that. Let's grab here, and if we hover over the edge of the circle, it should give me the center point, and there it goes. It gives me the center of the circle. And let's hit Control to make a copy, and we'll snap to the center, and we'll repeat that. And we just made some copies there. And let's see if we can do the same here. Now the only problem here is it may not rotate it. We'll try it. Let's go ahead and grab it. And that's what I was afraid of. It doesn't rotate correctly. So let's see if we can get it to rotate to be at the right angle. And we can go ahead and come over here, and let's see if it'll allow it. And it looks a little different, so what I'm going to do is we'll go ahead and recreate that for this portion. And it only took a second, so let's go 2 inches, and let's offset, or actually let's delete these lines. And we're going to make that into a group. We'll make it into a component as well. And we're going to come out 1/4 of an inch and then 0.1. And we'll go ahead and apply that to the whole. And then let's find our can light color. And there we go. And now I can just copy over here, and it should be right the same positions. And there we go. To start setting up our views, let's first get inside our model here. And as you can see, we can't really see a whole lot of our model. It's since it's kind of a small enclosed space, we just can't get a good view of everything going on, or you keep running in and outside of walls like I'm doing now. So let's see how we can fix that. So I created a quick little view here, but now let's get to modifying our camera. So let's go ahead and click camera, and the first thing I want to do is change my field of view. So right now you can see there's a setting right here for the field of view. I can type in a increment here. Let's say if I hit a 45 degree, or let's try a 70, and it just starts giving us a different perspective to where we're viewing our camera. Let me move this off screen, or actually I'm going to close that out, and let's zoom out. Now one thing, instead of zooming or scrolling back and forth, I'm going to right click, and since I'm in my camera function, I'm going to click walk, and this allows me to walk back, and usually it should not let me go through walls. It usually should, it'll stop when I hit a wall, and I think those blinds are messing it up a little bit, but usually it'll stop right there when it hits a wall. Now that's actually not a bad view or bad perspective angle. Now I'm going to right click and click look around, and there I can get a more of a vertical perspective here, and that's actually not too bad of a view. And let's see if we can just adjust the camera a little bit more. And another thing we can do is we can go camera to 2-point perspectives, and this will make all of our verticals straight. So let me go ahead and update this view here. And now let's create another scene, and let's just zoom in to our computer table over here. And we'll do about a view somewhere around there. And we're going to go ahead and click add, and we'll go ahead and rename this scene computer table, and let's keep on going. Let's add another scene. We're just going to pan the camera around somewhere about there maybe. And kind of accent or highlight that wood wall that we did, that accent wall, and we'll add that, and we'll rename this one accent wall. And let's use our camera and look around, and let's actually get a little higher so we kind of take a look at that ceiling fan and our vaulted ceiling, and we'll add that, and let's rename it ceiling. And we'll do one more. We just kind of come around here. Oops, a bit too much. Let's just go back to our view, and let's go ahead and move our camera, and we'll end it right there. Let me go ahead and let it save, and let's go ahead and right click, add another scene, and we'll rename that just our final scene. And there we go. So what we can do with these views now is we can actually just export a 2D image of this, or we can actually create an animation. So let's move on to creating a animation video for this room. Now before we set up the video animation for this model, let's go ahead and check our settings. So we're going to go to View, Animation, Settings, and here we have a scene transition. So this basically means the amount of time the camera spends in each scene. So from going to this scene to the next scene, it would take 2 seconds. So that's pretty fast. So I'm going to slow that down to, let's actually go to, let's say, let's double it. Let's go to 5 seconds. And scene delay is when it goes from one scene to another, it will actually pause your scene and then move to the next scene. I don't want it to do that. I want it to be a fluid motion, so I'm going to leave that at 0. And let's go ahead and close that. And let's go to File, Export, Animation. And there's still some more options that we can do by clicking down here. So let's click Options. And here we can change the resolution to 720, 480, or a custom resolution. And I'm going to go down to 720 because I want this to render pretty quickly. And here we can change the frames per second. And right now it's set to the max, which is 30. And we don't want it to loop to the starting scene when it's done. And everything else is okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And actually there's one more thing I want to do before I actually export this, and let's cancel out of this. I want to change the style because right now we have a lot of those endpoints being viewed, so I don't want that to show. So let's go to our tray, and let's go to show tray. There it is. And let's go to our styles, and let's get rid of the profiles, and let's get rid of our endpoints. And let's go ahead and hit update scene. And actually I may have to do this for each one. So another way I can do that is, let's go to show tray again, and let me back up to the style that we have here, and let's go ahead and see if we can create that as a new style. We're basically creating a new visual style here called Architecture Design Style 2. And actually I do want some edges, I just don't want them to be at that size, so let's reduce it down to 1. Okay, much better. And let's go to, let's update our style, and let's go to this next scene, and here we can see the style changed, but I want to select another style, so we're going to go to that Architecture Style 2, and let's see if it changes. There it goes. And let's update the scene. Let's go to this one, and we're going to select this other style, and let's go ahead and update the scene. And basically I'm going to repeat this for all the ones that we just did, and go to that final scene. And there's one more thing that we can do as well that we have not talked about, and that is setting our sun. So let's go to shadows, and let's enable the sun. And let's see if we can get the sun to come out of one of the windows. And it may or may not work. Let's see if we can get it to the right angle. And it looks like it's barely coming through there. Let's see if we can get an angle where it might work. And it may not work too well because I have those blinds over the windows. There it goes, actually. Okay. Let's see if we can get a view where we can see those really nicely. There we go. And let's lighten it up a bit. Okay, that's kind of nice. So let's go ahead and update that scene. Okay, so now that we've set up our scenes and our sun angles and our style, let's go ahead and create an animation. And I'm going to go ahead and go to File, Export, Animation. And we'll check our options one more time. All right, we have at 30 frames, 720p. Let's go ahead and click OK. And let's go ahead and export. And here it'll give you an estimated time, and it'll start counting down the frames that you are rendering. So there's going to 602 frames. So we'll check back when this is done. So now that our video is done, let's take a look at how it came out. And as you can see, the sun is moving because I'm changing the position of the sun in each scene. Now this to me is still moving a bit fast. So to do that, I would just go back into those animation settings and change the amount of time in each scene transition. So I believe this was at 4 seconds. So to adjust that, I would need to change it to a different amount. So I'll just go to View, Animation, Settings. And here I would just increase this amount so that it would move a little slower in between scenes and just have a smoother fluid motion. And also I can change the frame rate to just make it a bit more just smoother overall. So you really notice the difference when you increase things like that. But I think it's still a pretty nice looking video. So now let's move on to actually saving just individual still images of our scenes. Now to save an individual image or a JPEG of our scene here, all we have to do is go to File, Export 2D Graphic, and here we can indicate the type of 2D file, and we can do a JPEG, a PDF, EPS, PNG file, and we can even export in DWG or DXF formats. So let's go ahead and put it on JPEG. And one other important thing I want to share is going to options over here, and we want to increase the image size pretty significantly so that you get a high quality image. If you leave it on a default, it's just gonna, your lines are gonna look a little bit blurry or just very low quality. So let's set this to 4,000, and actually let's set this one to 3,000, bring that one to 5,000. So quite a bit. And let's go ahead and click OK, and we'll just save that on our desktop. And let's go ahead and say export, and there's doing a little bit of thinking, and we'll go ahead and check our image in a second. So let's go ahead and minimize that. And I think that's an older image. Let's go to that. Here it is. And there we have our saved image. So very nice, very clean, a very crisp image. So, and you could even go in here if you wanted to and do a little bit more editing. And this is just the Windows editor. I mean, I'm sure you could do more through Photoshop or another means. But definitely a very good quality image just from SketchUp. And what I can do is let's go back to SketchUp, and we can also play with different model styles and under your styles category here. So basically we can just go through the assorted styles, and you can just play with this and see what kind of style you might want to present your model in. There's just a lot of them, and you can also edit these as well by going to the edit category here or tab, and here it gives you just lots of options that you can add to your image, so, or your style. So each one of these is a slightly different, and you can explore these. I mean, there's really there's a lot of them, so just go through and see what you might want to use. Now, another way you can view your model is through sections, and here I have the sections tab right here. So let's say if you wanted to view this wall just straight on in a more of an architectural format. So let's go ahead and click this section pane, and I can select the wall that I want to be perpendicular to in my section, and we'll just call this our accent wall section, and just click OK. And what I want to do is grab this section and use the move tool to move this out so I can see that bed. And let's see how far we can move. Let's go to about there. Actually, yeah, we'll stop right there. And let's see what this looks like when we go into this view here. And I want to turn off the actual section because it puts like a little bit of a filter, and we don't want that. So we can actually view the model in a way like this, or if we want something really straight on that we can actually use as a scale drawing, I can go to parallel projection view, and what I want to do is I want to align my view to that back wall. So now I am straight on completely with that view. So there I have just this really straight on view, and I could hit add, and I could add that, and like we can hit we can rename this our accent wall elevation, and we can go ahead and do that for each one of these. So to deactivate that, I would just click that right there, and let's go ahead and create another section, and we'll click here, and we'll call this our desk elevation, and we'll go ahead and use the move command to get that where we want, and I'm just going to leave it there, and we want to get rid of that right there. It's just kind of filling in the cut, and I don't want it to do that, so we're going to leave that out. Let's turn off that section so we don't see that filter, and then I'm going to highlight this wall and make my view perpendicular to that, so align my view with that, and I believe I'm still in that parallel projection view, and there we go. We have a very straight on view there, and I can go ahead and hit add, create scene, and we'll rename that, and we'll call this the desk elevation, and so on and so forth. We can go and do that to every one of these walls here to create that section that we can use, and that's something that we can actually import into layout and use as an architectural drawing. So there you have it. We built that model completely in SketchUp. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm going to do one last thing as a bonus lecture. I'm going to show you how we can now take this model into a software like Lumion and create a awesome rendering that's photorealistic. So let's move on to that next lecture now. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up Lumion 10. Okay, so we are going to start with just a standard scene in Lumion. So we're going to go to New, and we'll use this forest environment for, actually, let's try this tropical environment. Let's do that, and we will place our model in that tropical environment. Okay, let's place our model just anywhere in this scene. And I'm not too concerned about the exterior, just for the areas that we're going to be looking out the window. And let's go ahead and lift it a little bit above the ground, just so we don't have any grass coming through. And let's zoom in here to our scene. And There we have our beautiful room. So now we just need to apply some materials and some effects to this scene. So first let's add some lighting effects. So let's go over here to lights and we'll go to place, and let's go ahead and select some can lights, and we'll go ahead and place them in the area of where our can lights actually are. And I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and move this to the correct layer. I'm going to move these to layer 2, and well, I guess it's already giving some layer names since this is a file that's a template file. Okay, so let's go ahead and give it a little bit of an orange or yellowish hue, but not too bad. So that's actually not too bad there. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I'm going to select it, make sure I'm in that move command, and hold down Alt to make a copy. And let's go ahead and copy that over there. And let's go ahead and keep on going through the rest of our model. And we're just adding that can light effect. Okay, so now let's go to materials, and I'm going to select that actual can light material, and we're going to make it a emissive object. And we're going to go over here to settings, and we're going to add some emissiveness to it. Not sure if that's how you say it, emissiveness. Okay, let's zoom out. And that looks about right, I would say. You know, maybe adjust the color a little bit more. Okay, that'll work for now. And let's also add some lights to our lamps here. And for our shades here, we can do a couple things. We can make it a little bit transparent, and we go right here, actually right here to transparency, click on this transparency icon here, and just make them a little bit transparent, not too much. And let's go ahead and add some, we're going to actually, let me back up and change that. I want to just basically make this emissive as well, and we'll go ahead and make this give it a little bit of a color. There we go. Just kind of give it a warmer feel to it, even though you might barely see that. But let's keep moving forward here, and that does the same thing to these two. So let's apply some effects to this wood. So I'm just going to go ahead and select it, and we're going to use the standard editing tool here. Here we can create a map out of it, and there you can see what it does. It just kind of changes that, and it's a little bit too glossy, and we just want it to be reflective but not too much. And we can also change the amounts of relief or that bump. So again, we don't want it to be too exaggerated there. And we can also add a bit of weathering to it. And here we are now in the wood weathering category. And you can see how much you can actually make it weather. We just want it to be a little bit weathered. And there we go. Looks very nice. So at this point, what we want to do is just keep applying different material effects to all of the materials in our model. So this is a very repetitive process, and you can just basically see what I'm doing here really quick. Basically just adding a little bit of reflection, a little bit of gloss, and a little bit of weathering to each object. So go ahead and go throughout your model and apply a little bit of those properties to each material. Now let's change up the lights just a little bit. I'm going to go to my lights over here. I'm going to click here and hold down Control to select all these lights. Let me do that again. And I'm going to reduce the brightness just a little bit. And I'm going to add a different type of light. So go to Placement and let's go to Omni Light, and we're going to go to a light fill. So we don't want that shadow in that roof over there. So I'm going to go and just click here and kind of fill in some of these areas here. And let's see if that's enough. And that may work. I may reduce them so that they're not that bright. So let's go ahead and maybe change a little bit of the fall off and just keep them right about there. Let's try that. Okay, so looks good. So now let's get into our photo rendering window here, and let's see how else we can modify this scene. Okay, so from the get-go there are some already default settings for our scenes here, which I don't really want to show it like this. It's just a little bit too orange for me, so I'm going to go ahead and delete these presets here, and we're going to create our own style and look for our model. So first let's go ahead and pick a view, and let's go ahead and try from here. And here we have a similar thing that we have in SketchUp where we can change the focal length of our view. So that's actually not too bad there. So we're going to start off over here, and let's go ahead and get a little closer. Now we'll go ahead and just click this camera icon to take that scene picture. Okay, so let's add some effects. Go ahead and click FX over here, and let's add the sun. God rays, we can try that. Volumetric sunlight. And let's keep going. We'll go to sky and clouds. And let's keep going. What else do we want? Let's go to our objects. That's good. Camera, we want to possibly adjust our exposure. 2-point perspective. Depth of field is fine. Animation, artistic. Let's see what else we can add to our scene. And in our advanced, we definitely want to click on this shadow and reflection and possibly global illumination. So okay, so now let's see how we can modify these. So first let's shut some of them off from the beginning, and I'll show you how these work. And let's start with our sun angle. So I want some sunlight coming in from these windows. So let's go ahead and adjust the heading of our sun. And actually I need to turn off my real sky effect. Let's go to our build mode here in our sun setting. Let's turn off real skies. And now let's go back to our model. And there we have some God rays coming in. Let's change some of that. And let's see how we can change our sun. Okay, so there we are starting to see the sun popping in there. Let's see if we can change the angle. Now I believe we have some trees around. Okay, there we go. That's a nice angle. We can change the brightness of the sun. Okay, we'll try that for now. And let's see if we can get a different view about there. Now let's see, we'll go back to our original view and just move it slightly. Okay, let's try that. And we'll go ahead and click this. Okay, so let's move on to another effect. Let's go to shadow. We definitely want our shadows, and turn on Omni Shadow. And here we can change the brightness of our shadows and darkness of it. So you just kind of play with that. And one thing we could do is when you press F8, it kind of toggles to show you the actual shadows that your lights are casting. Excuse me. So you can see how that's affecting your model. And let's see what else we can do. Let's check our 2-point perspective is fully activated so that we have those verticals. Reflection, that's going to be for this mirror here, but we're not really seeing that in this scene, so I'm not too concerned about that. For the exposure, we could make this a little bit less or more exposed, so that's actually not too bad there. We'll leave that. And let's see what else we can do. And let's see what our God rays can, if they're coming in, if we can change any of that. So this is not really, we're not really able to use this, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that. But the volumetric sunlight is being seen, so I'm going to click on this and see if there's something that we can do to affect that or change it. And here we can change the brightness of it, and actually doesn't look too bad. I may see how that plays out in our model, if it's worth keeping it in there or not. Maybe change it just slightly. Okay, we'll leave it right there. Okay, so not looking too bad. And let me try global illumination, and we can see what that does. So that kind of really just kind of illuminates everything. Maybe a little bit wouldn't hurt. Okay, very good. All right, so now the next thing I want to do is I'm actually going to add some can lights to this area here. So let's go back to our build mode and let's add some lighting to that. Let's go back to our objects. We are in the light mode, and let's go to placement, and let's go back to our spotlights here. So let's try, we'll go ahead and use this lamp again, and I'll show you how we can modify this. So I'm going to click here, and let's go ahead and use rotate, and we're going to rotate this up. So there's kind of really bright light, but we can reduce that quite a bit, and maybe even let's make it a lot more orange. And let's go ahead and copy this beneath it as well. Oh, let's undo that. Let's move down, and I'm going to use Alt to make a copy. And let's go ahead and rotate this looking downwards here. And this is going to be a little tricky, so let's grab this, and we'll go ahead and change some of the brightness of that. Okay, and we're kind of trying to center it. All right. Alright, so let's go ahead and see if we can copy this same effect to this other lamp. Okay, there we go. And it seems like we need to move this light ourselves here, and we'll keep it right there. I think that's fine. Okay, very good. So now let's go back to our scene and see what that looks like. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and turn this slightly. Yeah, let's go ahead and save that. So now let's set up some different scenes, and I'm going to go ahead and remove some trees from our window view here so we can get a little more sunlight coming through. So I'm going to go ahead and move to this nature category here, use the select tool, and let's see if we can find some of these trees to move. And I'm going to go ahead and hit Control and just grab several of them here, and let's go ahead and just move them out the way a bit, and maybe some of these bigger ones. There we go. Let's see how that affects our view here. Let's come back. There we go. We're getting a little more sunlight in, and here we can change the brightness of the sun if we want, get a little bit more effect coming through, and we can also adjust our exposure a bit. And I think that's very nice. Go ahead and save that, and then let's go save another angle, and let's get this one a little bit more straight on, and let's increase our focal length some, and see if we can get a nice view there. And let's go ahead and copy the effects that we had from our other scene here. So I'm going to go ahead and click over here, go to edit, copy effects, move over to this scene and hit edit, paste effects. And there we go. And let's see if we can adjust our sun height and get like a little bit of a more of a sunset feel to this. And let's see if we can do anything with global illumination and not affecting it too much. And I think that will work. We change the darkness slightly, and we'll go ahead and save that scene as well. And let's go ahead and do another scene. And I'm trying to get the let's get a view looking this way. Actually come around over here, which we have this view, but let's go complete opposite. Actually, all right. Okay, that's good. And let's copy these effects and paste it into this scene. And let's see if we can move our sun around. That's a pretty nice effect. And we'll go ahead and get it sunlight coming all the way through the room, so we're highlighting some of that computer area. And we could change the height of the sun, but it was actually pretty nice where it was at. And it might be doing a little bit of some funny things because of our global illumination, but I think that's very nice. And we'll go ahead and click store that scene, and we'll go ahead and try maybe one or two more scenes. And let's see if we can get something a little more artistic coming from our ceiling fans. And maybe something about there. Yeah, let's go ahead and paste those effects. And I'm going to add an effect to this. Let's go to our camera and let's go to the depth of field effect, and we're going to go ahead and let's see if we can make a sharp area and kind of adjust our focal distance and see if that does anything interesting. And actually we want to focus on the one further. And we'll change the amount. We don't want it to be too drastic. Maybe about there. And we'll go ahead and save that. But there's one more thing I want to do. We need to change the reflection. We need to add it to that. And we also need to change our 2-point perspective. Since we're up this high, really don't need so much of that forced perspective. And there we go. Okay, so some very nice shots. And now let's go ahead and export these and save them. So to do that, we're just going to go to render photos, and we're going to go to the photo set, and we're going to make it this print quality here. And we will go ahead and just save it here. We'll just call it our interior design bedroom. And we'll save those scenes. And really, depending on your computer, it's going to really determine how long it will take to save scenes like this. But generally with Lumion 10, if you have a computer that runs it well, saving these scenes won't take that long. And of course, it also depends on how many effects you have. Effects like reflection and shadow will really slow them down a bit more. But for the most part, Lumion is a fairly fast rendering software. Alright, so let's revisit these when they're all complete. Okay, so here are our final rendering photos, and I think they look awesome. Lumion 10 does a fantastic job, and let's just scroll through some of these. I think it looks really good. I think I forgot to do my reflection on here, but everything else looks really good, really realistic. I think Lumion just does a fantastic job. And one thing that I like to do sometimes is go ahead into this, and this is just the Windows photo viewer. You may have Photoshop, some other things. I have Photoshop as well, but you can just do some quick edits that can even enhance your model a little bit more. And just things like this, just adding a little bit of clarity to it could help. If you just want to saturate the colors a little bit more, your lighting effects, you know, some of these can help your model some. Or if you just want to leave it as it is, that's completely fine as well. Lumion does a good job. Just out of Lumion, the photos come out really good. So, but if you want to tinker with them a little bit, you can do in a photo editing software. And I'm just going to leave it as it was because I thought it was pretty good without doing any changes. Very nice. And that's going to wrap it up for this course.